Hello, everyone. It is now 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Franco, and I'm pleased to be your host for today's session on our Disability Studies program. This session is one of many taking place as part of Ryerson's virtual open house, which is running this week, November 9th to the 13th, and also next week, November 16th to the 20th. I encourage you to visit our website and register for any other sessions that might interest you. Now, to get started, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that Ryerson's campus stands on today, the place where we work and learn. Ryerson and Toronto are in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is something that is important to us here at Ryerson University, and we will continue to work on the path toward reconciliation. An update on our campus operations. Ryerson has shifted to an essential services model to help prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have put together a series of these virtual sessions in order to share information with you and connect with you, the applicant. Ryerson is working diligently to provide students with fulsome experiences while still maintaining the health and safety of our community. Now, just in case this is the first time you are using the Zoom platform, I'd like to share a few housekeeping tips with you. We encourage you to ask questions throughout this session. We have many faculty and staff members here on the back end ready to give you an answer to your question. To do so, you may utilize the Q&A pod, which it can be found at the bottom of the Zoom window. Click on that Q&A pod and that should open up a new dialog box, and that's where you can submit your questions to us. If you're also experiencing any audio video issues right now, maybe you can't hear me very well, also, please feel free to flag that in our Q&A box, and one of our team members will be able to assist you with troubleshooting. You may also rearrange the screen however you see fit. So if it works better for you to have the presentation larger or the speaker window larger, you may do so. However you rearrange your screen will not affect the viewing experience of others. And finally, we have also enabled closed captioning. So if you require that, please also hover over the bottom of our Zoom screen, and that is where you would be able to enable closed captioning. Also note that all the recordings from our virtual open house sessions will be made available for viewing at a later date on our Ryerson at Home website. So that's all for me. I'm now going to turn it over to our representatives from our Disability Studies program, and they can take it away. So I believe I will introduce Esther, Paris, and Amanda will be your presenters from the program. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Franco.
Thank you. Okay, well, welcome to this session this morning. My name is Esther, and I'm a faculty member in the school, and I'm here with Paris and Amanda, who are staff in the school, but also graduates of the Disability Studies program. Can we go on to the next slide?
So this is just the agenda where we'll talk about introductions, what is disability studies, curriculum overview, practicum challenge credit course, experiential learning, careers in disability studies, and some admission requirements. Next slide, please. Starting off with introductions. My name is Amanda, and I am the DST student, the Disability Studies Student Engagement Facilitator.
And Paris?
Hi, I'm Paris Master McRae. I'm the program coordinator with the School of Disability Studies. Good morning, welcome. And my role basically is divided in two sections. One is coordinator and administrative duty for the school. And then the other half is student engagement. No, sorry, that's completely wrong. Student advising. So welcome, and we look forward to answering your questions today.
And as I mentioned, I'm a faculty member in the school, but I'm also the director of the school, which is a position that we share among the faculty members. I do research and teach. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief introduction to disability studies, and there's so much more than what I'm presenting today. So disability studies is unique within the Faculty of Community Services because it's an interdisciplinary field of study that cuts across and has relevance to all the professional schools within the faculty. Disability studies is an equity-seeking project. It's concerned with social justice, cultural development, it's community making and community binding. It's very much in the spirit of women and gender studies, critical race studies, or Indigenous studies. So it takes as its central focus the condition and the flourishment of disabled, psychiatrized, deaf, neurodivergent, and sick people. So what's key to disability studies is that we take the experience, our experiences as disabled people, which have tended to be at the margins of knowledge, and bring that right into the center of knowledge production and what we teach in the class. So in disability studies, you should expect to see disabled faculty members, TAs, classmates, and you should expect to be reading work that's written from the lived experience of disability and body-mind difference. And there are some things that we gain from this. So first of all, we learned about the conditions of disabled people's lives from the perspective of disabled people themselves. And we recognize that there's probably no one better positioned to be able to offer that knowledge. Second, we begin to expand our understanding of expertise. And we see that alongside professional expertise, there is a body of knowledge or expertise that comes from living through something, and that we can build futures based on our knowledge of what we've lived through. And this is really a radical project. And finally, we are able to use disability as an entry point to see the world differently. So disability studies allows us to ask critical questions of what counts as normal, what counts as healthy, good, correct, as appropriate behavior in a classroom setting, for instance. So we ultimately hope that disability studies becomes a blueprint for social transformation. Next slide, please. Okay, so getting right into what our curriculum is. So our program is roughly equivalent to a two-year degree completion program. And I say roughly equivalent because we are a part-time program. So students often take longer than 2 years to complete the program by their own choice. The program is really flexible, and it suits the needs and the preferences of the students. What you find is that there's a wide range of critical disabilities and MAD studies courses that students can take from within the program, as well as electives from across the university. The courses within the program are key to the field of disability studies, but they also reflect the programs of research of our faculty members and our postdoctoral fellows, our researchers within the school. So those can be quite wide-ranging, everything from sexuality to citizenship and justice, to thinking about carceral care, anti-Black Zionism, to disability arts and culture. So I mentioned that the program is flexible. The first course that many students tend to take is DST 501, which is the foundations course of the program. It's called Rethinking Disability. And students are introduced to many of the key debates within the field of disability studies, but also within the lives of disabled people themselves. So those debates can be around rights and justice, or they can be around hot button issues like genetic selection, or hate crime, or access to funds for assistance with sexuality. And part of how we work through those debates is by introducing ourselves to some of the key writings and foundational concepts of the field. So it provides you with the foundation, and then all the other courses build upon that. The other two courses that form the backbone of the program are the research methods courses. So there's DST 88, which is research methods for disability studies, which is a full year course, and DST 99, which is a capstone course, again, a full year course, and we'll talk about that further in a couple of slides. We tend to take these courses in sequence. So the fastest most students can get through the program is 2 years plus a term, but generally students can take anywhere from 3 years onwards. Next slide, please. Okay, so in the program, in those 2 years, students take 21 courses. There are 11 required courses, DST courses from the program. Sorry, the virtues of working from home, excuse the phone. There are 4 liberal studies that students take, 3 upper year, 1 lower level liberal studies, and 6 elective courses that are called professional or professionally related elective courses. So essentially, students are taking the equivalent of the last 2 years of their Bachelor of Arts degree. So we were asked to describe the typical first year. There is no typical first year for disability studies. And remember, because it's a degree completion, the first year is actually as if you're launching into the 3rd year of a BA program. We have 3 intakes into the program. So the foundations course is offered in the spring, it's offered in the fall, and it's offered in the winter. And what that means is you could start the program in any one of those semesters. So we've created a table for you here that offers different options for you. So in the table that you see on the slide, in example 1, you might start the program this in the spring, summer 2021, and you would start with DST 501, the foundations course, and then in the fall, you might take the history, Mad People's History course and an elective, and then in the winter, you might take the course on disability representations, and then in the following spring, you might take another elective or liberal studies. In the second example, you would start in the fall, not in the spring. And again, you could take the foundations course, and you might take another disability studies course, like the accessibility course, the course on accessibility practice, which also does not have a prerequisite. So you could take those courses simultaneously. And then in the winter term, you could take the course on interventions and a course on community organizing. And then in the summer, you could take an elective. Alternately, you could start in the final example, you could start in the winter. Presumably, you could start this winter with the foundations course, plus the Mad People's History course. And then in the summer, you could take the Disability and Law course and maybe an elective if you wanted to. There are many, many more combinations. We couldn't possibly list them for you. We just wanted to give you a sample of the kind of flexibility in the program. So I'm going to pause here. Paris, do you have anything you want to add?
Not right now.
Okay. So next slide. Okay. So here we just wanted to focus on some of the most popular courses in our program, but this is a bit of a moving target. I think you would find that from year to year, what rises to the top or the surface as the most popular course can vary. And sometimes it has to do with which students are in the class. But a very popular course is Mad People's History, which is a course that's rooted in the experience and the history of people who've been psychiatrized. It starts in the history of institutionalization of mad people, people who are labeled as mentally ill, but also people who were labeled as feeble-minded, who were immigrants, who were slaves, who indigenous people. So it starts in that intersectional eugenics history and moves right to the present to look at the experience of people who still find their lives very much shaped by institutional practices. That course is offered in the fall and the winter, and it's a course, as I said, that does not have a prerequisite, so you can take it right away. Another very popular course is Rethinking Disability in Education. And it's a course that has been conceived of jointly with the program, the Early Childhood Studies program. Many of our students have a background in education and are currently working as educational assistants, and as such are looking for how they can take what they're learning about disability studies and translate it into the classroom. So this course offers them some practical and policy guidance in that area. It's very much focused on the Ontario and Canadian context, but there is some international discussion within the course. Of course, students have described it as one of the more pragmatic courses that they take in the program, and they find that they can mobilize what they learn in it almost immediately in their work lives. The other course that's very popular is the capstone course, which I'm going to describe in a moment, but it's a course where you really start with an idea around a research project or a community project and take it all the way to implementation. There are, as I mentioned, so many other courses, and one of the nice things about our program is we have a couple of courses that are called special topics courses, and that allows us to offer courses that are one-time offerings that really allow students to explore an issue or a current topic in depth. It might only be offered once or twice, but it allows students to explore something that they've been very curious about. I would say that you should also expect that the way the courses is delivered, it can really vary. So we've had really innovative things, innovative curriculum unfold within classes. So our students have created exhibits that have been featured at the Royal Ontario Museum. They've hosted conferences with the Law Commission of Ontario. They've organized community events around NIMBY movements, so the Not in My Backyard movements. They've organized conference panels and participated in international conferences, and they've published articles out of their working classes. So there's so much you can do. Next. The next slide, please. Okay. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the practicum and experiential learning. I think Paris might jump in here around DST 80. We do have a practicum course, but very few of our students take it. And that's because many of our students are already in the workforce. Paris?
So basically what the practicum course is there's like a challenge credit. So most of our students coming into the program usually have paid work employment. So if you have minimum of 2 years of paid work employment in the field of disability studies, then you can get 2 credit challenge, 2 credits you can challenge for. So you'll get 2 credits when you come into the program already done.
I would add to that students who are disabled students or who have disabled family members also are eligible for the challenge credit. And that's because your experience around disability is already so intimate and so detailed. You've had to live it from the inside. So those students are also eligible for the challenge credit. Having said that, DST 99, the capstone course, offers an opportunity to develop experiential learning or practice-based skills. So there are 3 options in that course. Students can mount an independent research project, they can host a community project, or they can develop an educational workshop. And we've had students do pursue all 3 options, although many pursue the independent research. And that's a piece of work that you start planning in the research course that precedes this one. And it can follow your line of interest. You work on it independently under the mentorship of a faculty member, and you're really taking the project from a fledgling idea. You're building up the background to the project, exploring how you might design the project and implement the project. Sometimes you're working with community groups or institutions, and then you implement the project and evaluate it. I'll give you an example of a student who was able to do this really successfully, and that's Heather Norris on the next slide. There we go. So Heather Norris, who is Algonquin, was in the program from 2012 to 2017, and she is a parent of a disabled daughter. And she was very interested in how what she was learning in the program blended or wove together with Indigenous worldviews around impairment and disability. She was particularly interested in one of the ideas around interdependence. So we talk about interdependence a lot within disability studies, and that is a key idea within Indigenous worldviews. Her thesis project explored that in depth, largely through interviews with community members in the Golden Lake community in Central Ontario. She also used her interest around this project to take positions within the school as a research assistant. So she worked on the Reimagining Parenting Possibilities project as a research assistant working in the Ottawa area with Indigenous women exploring their parenting experiences of disabled children and their own experiences of disability. And she also was able to secure a scholarship for an undergraduate research award where she developed what she did in the capstone course, and she ultimately published a journal article. And so it's an example of how you can take the coursework and make it reverberate out into other pieces of your life, other areas of your life, and open up different kinds of opportunities for yourself. I think what's most important for Heather is that she was able to bring her daughter to understand disability in new ways, and was able to talk about disability and impairment within her home community in ways that she hadn't been before. Next slide. Okay. Okay. So we were asked to think about some of the careers opportunities for students in the area of disability studies. So right now, you would find our graduates all over. Many of our graduates work in schools or community colleges. Some work in universities. As you see, Paris and Amanda are good examples of that. Many of our graduates work in government. They work in policy offices or policy branches of government at all levels, municipal, provincial, and federal. We have a couple of our employees who work at the Toronto Transit Commission in the Diversity and Equity Office there. We have our graduates work at Toronto Public Health and other public health units across the province. Our graduates work at the Art Gallery of Ontario, but also art galleries in Ottawa, in Hamilton, and in Windsor. And many of our graduates work in community and social services. Some stay in their original workplaces, but what they find is that the degree gives them a certain measure of career mobility. So they move into new positions, and often they move into those new positions in the course of their undergraduate career. So the kinds of career options that are open for students, again, are wide-ranging. So obviously education, but more and more of our students are going on to graduate studies. And so they're finding their way into research careers. And those can be both within the university, but also research careers in government or for NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Our students are pursuing law and paralegal careers. They're moving into policy careers. Many work in the area of access and design. So there's a thread of research and pedagogy in our program, looking at the arts and culture and at accessibility. And students are able to take what they've learned and move that into design careers in ways that I think they hadn't expected when they came in. Some of our students work in curatorial kinds of careers. Others work in information or library sciences. They work in archive careers that they hadn't anticipated when they came in. And obviously, our students work in the area of medicine and healthcare related careers, as well as community and social service careers. Next slide. Can I have the next slide? Okay, so some of the unusual jobs that our students have secured upon graduation. One of our graduates became the Indigenous liaison at the Ontario Child's Advocate Office. And there she looked at the intersection of indigeneity and impairment with a focus on how the legacy of settler colonialism in Canada is in itself a disabling experience. And so she did quite a lot of work in Northern Ontario as part of that office when that office was in existence. Another one of our graduates became the first sexual health promoter at Toronto Public Health to work with young people who are labeled with developmental and intellectual disabilities. So young people, youth with developmental and intellectual disabilities are often excluded from physical and health education classes in their schools. And so they get very little sexual health education material. And so that's left for their own families to try to work out. Our graduate designed a program in which he worked with young people and their teachers. That's an innovative model that's been taken up by many jurisdictions across Canada and internationally. We have one student who went up north, completed her medical degree, and is currently working as a family physician in Northern Ontario. And One of our local grads is Heather Willis, who is the accessibility coordinator here at Ryerson in the Office of the Vice President for Equity, Community, and Inclusion. And she is the point person at Ryerson for all issues around accessibility. Next slide. So admissions criteria. Paris?
Okay, hello again. The admissions criteria is the students need a college diploma from a Canadian community college. It could be a 2-year diploma or an advanced 3-year diploma. You do need 1 credit humanities or social science courses as part of the requirement. Your cumulative average needs to be a B. If you're below a B or less than a B, then you're required to take 2 one-semester liberal studies course as a qualification. And once you complete that successfully, it will be used towards your credit when you're admitted into the program. So the 2 liberal studies courses that you have to take to qualify, they will count towards your BA once you're admitted into the program. With your admissions form, you also need to submit a supplementary letter. The supplementary letter basically states why you chose the program and your goals, basically. The supplementary letter is also used as an eligibility criteria for an entrance award, David and Sylvia Pollock entrance award. So right there, you can get at least $1,000 entrance scholarship based on your supplementary letter. Also, if students have additional credits, say for example, you have a college diploma and maybe a year of university, 3 or 4 credits, or even 1 credit, you can apply for transfer credit to see if that course can be applied towards either your professionally related or your liberal studies category. And also, if you go onto the Ryerson How to Apply Admissions page, there's a little video tutorial that tells you how to go about filling out your application. Also, if you need more information, please feel free to reach out to us, to myself, or also our admissions officer, Claire Riley. She's awesome. She knows exactly how our program works. So give her a shout and she will guide you through the admissions process. That's it.
All right. Next slide. Okay, and we just wanted to say something about the minor in disability studies. So we know that some students who come to these open houses are coming right from high school and have an interest in disability studies because of the career paths that they're imagining for themselves. We want to emphasize that you can take disability studies courses even if you're in one of the other schools within the Faculty of Community Services or one of the other faculties at Ryerson. And you are eligible to take a minor in disability studies. And it's actually quite a simple process. You take the foundations course or its equivalent Chang School course, and we've given you the course code there, INT 902. And then you take 3 additional disability studies courses. And then there's a fairly lengthy list of related courses that you can take. You would find that those courses tend to be common across many, many programs. So an introductory course to sociology is one of those courses, or not Psych 100, but the introductory course in psychology is another one of those courses. So it can be very easy for students to get those 2 related courses and to complete the minor. The minor appears on your diploma, on your degree when you graduate. You do have to apply for the minor upon graduation. And I think that's a very simple process in which the registrar's office just makes sure that you've met all the criteria. So
sorry, Esther, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah. Please do.
The minor does not appear on your BA. It will appear in your transcript though.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that. That's why Paris is here. So there's just another option for students. I think you will find that some of the other schools across the university actually have our courses listed as professionally related courses. And in some instances, such as social work, it's about to appear, our courses are about to appear as required courses in the program.
We're also on the open elective table for a lot of programs.
So I also acknowledge that because this is the first time we've gone through this particular slide, I forgot to mention that there were image descriptions for the various images on the slides. So if anyone needs those image descriptions read out for them, Amanda's happy to do so. You just need to indicate in the Q&A area that you'd like them read aloud. And I think that's it. The next slide is just how to follow us on social media. Amanda manages our social media, and you'll find that we have a very active presence there. There are a lot of events that we host through the school. Some are for our students, but a number are public. And our faculty are really sought after speakers. And we had talks last night. There's a workshop happening today. There's other things happening next week. So it's a way to get a sense of a way to get a flavor of what you might find in the program. So please do follow us on social media and try to catch up on one of the public events that our faculty are leading. I think that's it. Thank you. At this point, I think we turn it over to you if you have any questions.
Yes, if anyone still has any more questions for Esther, Amanda, or Paris, I invite you to use the Q&A to submit those questions to us, and we'd be happy to get you an answer. If there are any questions coming now, I think we'd be okay with answering them live as well, I believe. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please let us know.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, Paris. Go ahead.
How many students are interested in applying to the disability studies program? Who? So that's basically I'm trying to figure out.
Taking a course, maybe start there.
I did see a few of them. Actually, there is one thing I forgot to launch at the beginning. We did actually have a poll asking us when are students thinking of applying. So let me just launch that poll, and that should give us an idea of when students are interested in starting with the disability studies program. And while that is running, we did actually receive a few questions now in the Q&A. Some of them are, so here's a question. Is the program going to be entirely online for spring 2021 and onward? I recall in the past students had to attend in person in July for a few weeks. Anyone able to tackle that question?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Actually, even before the pandemic, our students had talked about some of the difficulties around the summer intensive, and we were in the process of rethinking the summer intensive. And part of that is just the cost of coming to Toronto. So our students are from all over Canada, and they were finding that coming to Toronto for 2 weeks, trying to secure a place to stay and just survive for that time was really onerous. So we've had to rethink that model a little bit. And what we were looking at was on-sites that might be 1 or 2 nights, or moving to a more of a blended or hybrid model. And we were in the process of experimenting with that so that students who could easily come on site could be on site, but at the same time, students would be participating virtually. But at the moment, obviously, everything is happening online. That hasn't been a difficult transition for us, as you can imagine, because much of our curriculum is already offered online. Yeah.
I see Danny has also jumped on video. Danny, I'm wondering if you want to chime in on that as well.
Yeah, I actually have a question. And this is mainly for our graduates from the program that we're lucky to have here with Amanda and Paris. Can you tell us about the experience of just being a student? You know, I know that a lot of it would be online. I know that students might be thinking, like, what is beyond the classes? Like, what is the school culture actually like? You know, will we get to meet other people? Will we connect? Can you tell us more about that particular part of the student experience in disability studies?
Sure. There's actually a really good live and vibrant connection online. And also with student engagement, Amanda, and with the social media, Facebook, Instagram, people always associate coming to campus as having making connection. There is definitely a huge part of that, but most of our students being online, they have their communities that they kind of, like, for example, when they're coming from college, like they have a couple of groups of students, like, you know, a couple of friends that kind of go through the program with them. Sometimes when we have an intensive course or hybrid where students are on campus, again, there's a time to make connections there where they kind of meet each other and they follow through the rest of the program, you know, taking courses together. So, and also, I mean, we do have events, workshops, and, like, you know, certain community engagement stuff where students can meet each other, people from different areas and stuff, and network.
Mm-hmm. Going off of what Paris said, I found even if you are not able to make like extracurricular events or things like that, online courses are actually really vibrant in terms of the discussion boards, and you get to know people via their names. Often we include pictures in those first time introductions. So when you finally see each other in person or on video, you really are like, oh, that's you. And then all of a sudden also, like, if you're ever working on a group project through distance learning or like just online, you actually end up like creating like personal chats, like WhatsApp chats or Facebook chats. Like it depends on the strategy of the group, or an email chain, and you really get to know people that way. And like it's really exciting because when you finally graduate or get to meet up in person for an event, you get to see some of the familiar faces as well as some of the unfamiliar faces, and you're just like comparing all together the experiences that you've had, and it resonates with each other. So that's how that goes.
Yeah, because most of the students, they can't come on campus, right? That's the beauty of our program. We're giving them the flexibility to get the BA while working and through online, right? So they have similarities there where they can actually, there's also there's a connection there right there from the beginning, and they work from that.
There are students who do come on campus too. So I would come out of my office when we were on campus, and I would find like a group of them working on something together. So even though they were all in different courses and at different stages of the program, there they all were.
I was one of those students. Oh, sorry, Hester.
Yeah, no, that's it. Carry on, Amanda.
I was one of those students where I did quite a hybrid because I actually live very close to the Ryerson campus. But I was able to, if anybody else was also in the Ryerson area, we would meet up as part of the group, and then we would like FaceTime call the rest of our group. So at least some of us were in person and some of us were distance. But I mean, overall, like the office, when we're able to go back, is always a pleasant place. It's open, it's a great work area. It's also a great area. Honestly, I've had lots of teas, just visiting and like chatting with everybody. I must say, like, you get to know the really like the family that is disability studies. Even as people change over, you really just get to know people on a personal level, and everybody's really excited to see you succeed in whatever endeavors you're looking for.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really helpful. I had another question that I think might be that I think might help our audience. And I think I definitely want to start it with Esther, because it's about the ideal students. So when students are thinking, am I right for this program? Can you give us a sense, Esther, and I definitely want to see other people jump in, but can you give it a sense of like who the ideal disability studies student is?
That is such a tough question. Because when I think about, I'll just give you an example. Like right now, I'm writing letters of reference for students who are going on to graduate school and their Bachelor of Education. And the pile of letters is growing. So I have 21 letters that I'm writing this weekend. And those students are all so different. And all their letters are going to be fantastic letters. One of them was a single father, immigrant from Uganda, working in a group home and as an EA, sending money back home to his son, like like a real immigrant working story. Another student is a young artist, really cut their teeth with political activism in downtown Toronto, kind of a graffiti artist, and going on to do their Master of Fine Arts. Another student, really mainstream middle class, and interested in pursuing a master's in instructional design out in BC. Like all those backgrounds are so incredibly diverse, and their experiences through the program are tremendously diverse in terms of their own life conditions. But they all know each other. I think they would all say that they're friends with one another. They support one another. And like for us as a program, we can really see how we can support their careers. And we could never have anticipated where they were going to go when they come in. So it's hard to say that there is an ideal student. There is a typical student. A lot of our students work in developmental services or in the education sector. They're working as EAs. They see a lot in those educational assistants. They see a lot that troubles them. I would say that they are unsure of how to articulate what they see that troubles them. Often they were kids that were labeled with learning disabilities themselves. And so they see how kids are marginalized. They know their own experience was one of marginalization within the school system. They want to make a change, and they think that maybe they're going to come into our program, become a teacher, and make a change that way. And many do, but I think they learn that there's so many other ways to make changes in the world. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And Paris, Amanda, I also want to give you a chance to jump in just in case you had anything else to add to that amazing description that is provided.
Personally, as a recent graduate, I honestly found that as diverse as me and my fellow students were, we were all the same in the sense of we wanted to learn about disability studies and how to transform the worlds that we're in, and how to do that in an informed way. And so some of us had kids, some of us didn't have kids, some of us worked, some of us came from college. It was just so different, but it was all relatable. You know, we were very much understanding of the fact that we all have different lives, but when we come to the classroom, we can bring those lives with us.
Thank you.
For me, it was I was working actually before I took my BA in disability studies. I was working in the School of Disability Studies, helping students and stuff. And to be very frank with you, just watching and listening to the students and just learning where they were coming from, talking to the instructors and the courses that they were teaching, it just fascinated me. So to be very honest with you, I had no concept of what disability studies was about, even though I was working in the program. But I was fortunate enough to be able to take courses because it was offered online. So I could work and do my BA, you know, and I really understood what social model of disability actually is all about, you know, and that was my learning journey. And it was fantastic. It was amazing. I wish it was still, I mean, it is still going, you know what I mean? There's different projects and stuff and, you know, interactions with what faculty is doing and their research. Also learning from the students. I always say students play a huge, huge part because you guys come in with so much lived personal experience. You know what I mean? And it's fascinating. And I think if you're interested in learning about disability studies and moving forward, making a career out of it, you're in the right place. You are in absolutely the right place. I can guarantee you that. And it's recorded.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was just looking at some of the questions on the Q&A, and I'm not sure if all of them have been answered. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I think some of the questions have, actually all the questions have been answered. Oh, I do see there was a question. There was a student asking if kind of what diplomas will qualify them for the program. I'm wondering if we can touch a little bit about that before we wrap up.
Esther, do you want me to speak to that? Sure. Would you like me to speak to that, Esther?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, as long as you have a 2-year college diploma from a Canadian community college, it doesn't matter if it's in developmental services worker, journalism or or anything, as long as it is accredited Canadian college diploma. You could have it in arts, you can have it in police foundations, you can have it in anything, basically. Does that help?
Yes, actually, that definitely does help. In this particular question, they were asking about they have a diploma from Sheridan College in educational support.
Yep.
So I just want to clarify if any of those courses could be applied to the program. So
yes. So what happens is your college diploma gives you transfer for year 1 and 2, which our program doesn't have. So your diploma gives you admissions into 3rd year of university. Okay, so that's how it works. So that's why you need a college diploma. It covers year 1 and 2 of university, which our program doesn't have. And you're coming into 3rd year of university. So if you have additional credits from a university, then you can apply those courses as additional transfer credits towards your 3rd and 4th year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paris.
Okay.
That does kind of wrap it up for today.
Jump in one more thing?
Definitely,
Esther,
yeah, for sure.
Maybe you might want to touch on this one. There was a question earlier on that says, what does MAD course mean?
Oh, okay. So what's MAD studies or what's MAD people's history?
I think it's the word MAD in quotes.
Oh, MAD. So MAD is a politicized word. And it speaks to the experience. I might need my colleagues to jump in here to capture it really well. But it speaks to the experience of people who've been labeled with psychiatric diagnoses, who've found themselves caught up in institutional systems like the asylum system, like the psychiatric system, like even the criminal justice system. So where people are seen as falling off what we normatively think of as reasonable or sane. So to capture that experience, communities of people who've found themselves labeled through institutional practices have sort of reclaimed the word mad and used it to sort of fight back against those or resist those experiences of institutionalization and pathologization. Not loving the language that I'm using right now. It feels a little bit overly academic.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is reclaimed. It is, the word mad is reclaimed by the people. That's why it's used as Mad People's History. The course is taught from the perspective of mad people. The instructors themselves are psychiatric survivors. You know what I mean? So you really get, the course is being taught from the lived experience rather than a non-disabled person or a non-experienced person is teaching about MAD studies. I hope that's helpful.
I took that course and I absolutely loved it. So it's a great experience for those who either have lived experience or don't have lived experience in the area. Both ways, it's just such a very eye-opening course to a history that often gets stifled.
Or it gets represented in really dominant ways through the side disciplines as experiences that can be remedied, managed, disciplined, subdued. So MAD studies is a resistance to all of that and takes up MAD identity as something that is positive, generative, and resistive. And I think I'm struggling a little bit because I think the experience is really wide ranging. So we might look at the experiences of queer people who've historically been psychiatrized as being relevant to MAD studies, even though queer people may not find themselves caught up in the psychiatric system simply by virtue as identifying as gay or lesbian today. So, but still, that history is a shared history. So take the course, and we can talk about that much further.
Awesome. So any final things you may want to share with our viewers today about the program? Any final things?
Do they have a way of contacting the school, like to me or Esther or Amanda? Do they have our emails if they have further questions?
I don't believe so, but if anyone does want their emails, please feel free to flag that in our Q&A. They'd be happy to share their contact emails. So if you have any questions later on, they'd be able to address those by email.
Or reach out to us on social media.
Yes. Yes, all the socials are still posted on the screen, so please feel free to go on your phone or on your computer right now and follow them right away. Awesome. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you Esther, Amanda, Paris, and also Danny for jumping on to ask our guests some questions as well. We're now going to be shutting down our audio and video, but we'll still be online for a few more minutes to answer any final questions that you might have. I also encourage you to make a note of any answers you have received today too, because once this webinar ends, you will a record of that answer will be lost. So On behalf of Ryerson University and all of our presenters and our team here on the back end, thank you once again for joining us today, and I hope we can see you in other sessions later this week. Bye for now.